Hi. So I thought you spoke very eloquently about the immigrant experience and the American dream, but you're supporting the candidate who has a much more prohibitive stance on immigration and has talked about banning members of one of the world's largest religions from coming to this country. So I wonder how you respond to kind of the conflict between those things.
That's a good question, which basically says, gee, you know, you've made this passionate argument against bigotry. Hey, aren't you advocating for a bigot? Aren't you advocating for somebody who wants to block immigration, keep the Muslims out, makes these kind of bigoted remarks? I want to address this frontally because, first of all, if it is Trump's position that America should not let in any Muslims, I don't believe that is his position, by the way. If he said it, he's clarified it subsequently. But if it is his position now, I don't agree with it. But I will say this. Our country does need, in this age of terrorism, very careful vetting. We live in an age when most of the terrorists who want to kill us, no, let me put it differently, most Muslims are not terrorists. But it is also true that most of the terrorists who want to kill us are Muslims. So, this means that we need a particularly careful vetting from Islamic nations. This is not to say that people can't be converts to Islam, that we can't have homegrown terrorism, but the simple truth of the matter is just look around the world. The Mumbai bombing, the Bali bombing, the Madrid bombing, 9/11, the list goes on. And this is not a fault of religion. Where are the Korean suicide bombers? So this is not a case of religion. This is a case of a particular toxicity in a particular religion at this moment in history. It takes a certain realism to see the world in the face. And that's the reality. I think to that degree, Trump has a realism about him. Now, Trump has said things that are, I think, at times thoughtless and even insensitive. But insensitive is not racist. Insensitivity is not bigotry. He called some guy a Mexican. Now that's an American guy of Mexican descent. Not probably the right way to describe him. It's kind of like looking at me. I'm an American of Indian descent. You call me an Indian. Well, I may not like it, but that doesn't make you a racist. So when you look at the actual history of racism, it essentially involves considering people intrinsically inferior, locking them up, burning them up, denying them jobs. Trump has done none of that. So it's an absolute perversion of the term racism to take an epithet or a phrase and link traditional, ancestral, you may call it, real racism with, you may say, careless talk. Hopefully Trump has learned from this experience. Look, he's an outsider. When you get an outsider, you get the benefits of somebody who is untutored in politics, is even unvetted, and you get some of the risks of that. So when I look at it, I say Trump is a politician and a public figure in the making. And I'm more concerned of not even so much about who he was. He grew up in a rough neighborhood. He hung around with rough people. He learned to talk in rough ways. The question I have is he going to talk like that in the White House? My expectation is no. But even if he did, I'd still take that over Hillary.
A friend, she asked, wondering after all that you've been through, do you regret making the movies?
I regret making them quite as moderate as they are. Every now and then a kind of cloud of rhino suspicion crosses my own mind, and then I've got to fortify myself and go for it.
Hey, so
we have a serious problem with lack of gun safety in this country.
On the issues of...
Just one question. With your conviction, doesn't the Eighth Amendment, didn't what they did to you violate the Eighth Amendment because what they did was cruel and unusual psychological testing, and you being the first person convicted of that crime, unusual?
No, I don't think so. I don't think that would be a valid constitutional objection. Now, certainly it is a little weird to take an offense which is exceeding the campaign finance law and order the defendant, me, to undergo mandatory psychiatric testing. I mean, we're not in Cuba. This isn't the Soviet Union. And the kind of crimes for which you normally get mandatory psychology in America, you have to be Jeffrey Dahmer. You have to put bodies in the refrigerator, and people will go, what would make a guy do that? Well, in my question, the question is, what would make a guy who's never given to political campaigns before want to give 20 grand to a longtime college friend of his who's running for office? That doesn't require psychological therapy. So this reflects the kind of nuttiness of modern liberalism, this idea that people who disagree aren't wrong, they're actually screwed up, and they need medical attention. But all I can say about the attempted rehabilitation is it doesn't seem to have worked.